The sirens reached the house before I realized Mom had called them. Their blue and red lights bled through the windows, painting the living room walls in violent flashes. They swept over the shards of glass scattered across the floor, over the toppled chair, over the photo frame that lay face down, our family frozen mid-laugh, now fractured beneath my shaking hands. I didn't move. My throat burned, my eyes stung, but all I could hear was the faint hum of the police radio outside. It mixed with the ragged rhythm of my breathing, the pulse hammering in my ears. "Rachel," Mom said carefully, her voice trembling, "put it down. Please. You're not thinking straight." "Not thinking straight?" I whispered. "You called the cops on your own daughter." Her hand hovered near her chest, shaking. "You've been off lately. Ever since your father's passing. You need help." That word help hit me like a slap. Mark stepped out from the hallway, arms folded, leaning against the doorframe with that same smug calm he always wore when he thought he'd already won. "Mom's right," he said. "You've been losing it for weeks. You broke the vase last night, now this? Look around. You're spiraling." I turned to him slowly. "I'm spiraling?" I said, my voice low and dangerous. "You mean I finally notice what you two are doing?" He frowned, but his eyes flicked toward the kitchen table, toward the stack of folded paper sitting there like silent witnesses. "The will," I said, pointing. "Dad's will. You read it. You knew he left the house to me. And then suddenly a new version appears, signed, sealed, notarized, naming you and Mom as the beneficiaries. How convenient." Mom's face drained of color. "That's enough, Rachel." "No," I said, stepping closer. "I found the draft in your drawer, Mom. The one with my name scratched out and your handwriting all over it. You were going to forge his signature, weren't you?" Mark straightened. "You're insane," he said softly. "Dad changed his will before he died. You're just too emotional to accept it. Don't gaslight me." I snapped. "You think I don't know Dad's signature?" He could barely hold a pen the last month of his life. For a moment, silence. Just the hum of the sirens getting louder, closer. Then the lights cut through the curtains again. Red, blue, and Mom's lips parted in relief. "They're here," she whispered. A sharp knock followed and a steady male voice called out, "Police. We got a call about a disturbance." Mom hurried to the door before I could say a word. "Thank you for coming," she said quickly. "My daughter, she's having an episode. She's not well." "Episode?" I repeated, my voice cracking. "You're lying." 2 officers stepped inside. The taller one had kind eyes. The other, stocky and tense, looked ready to react. "Ma'am," the tall one said gently, "can you tell us what's going on tonight?" Mom's voice wobbled, but she played her part perfectly. "She's been unstable since her father passed. She's delusional. She thinks we're trying to steal from her." "Because you are." I cried. "Check the papers on the table. Please. Just look." The taller officer glanced between us, uncertain. And in that moment, before he said a single word, I realized what they saw. A woman shaking, hair disheveled, tears streaked down her face, surrounded by broken glass. And across from her, a trembling mother clutching her chest and a brother pretending to be calm. It didn't matter what was true. It mattered what looked true. Mark lowered his voice, just loud enough for the officers to hear. "She hasn't been sleeping. She's paranoid. Dad always worried she'd have a breakdown someday." That word breakdown sliced through me like ice. The taller cop sighed. "Ma'am, why don't we sit down and talk?" "I'm not sitting," I said. "Not until they admit what they did." "Rachel," Mom said softly, almost tenderly now, "you're scaring me." I took a step back, my chest tight. "You should be scared." "Okay," the officer said quickly, holding up his hands. "No one's in trouble. Let's just calm down. Can you tell me what this is?" He gestured to the papers. I grabbed them from the table. "This is my father's will, the real one. His signature's here. He left everything to me. They changed it. They took my name off it." Mark's face remained unreadable. "That's not Dad's handwriting," he said. "What?" He pointed, his voice steady. "You forged it, didn't you? You've been obsessed with this since he died. You made a fake version to make yourself feel better." I stared at him, my mouth dry. "You liar." He looked at the cops. "She's done this before. twisting things. She once accused a boyfriend of cheating, just because she had a bad dream. That's not true, I shouted. But my voice cracked and that was all it took. The officers exchanged a look. The shorter one stepped forward. Ma'am, I think we should step outside for a moment. Just to talk. I'm not going anywhere, I said. He's lying. Look under his foot. My words stopped dead. Because I saw it. The missing page. A torn corner of paper peeked out from under Mark's shoe. The last page of the will. The one with the signature. My heart thundered. Move your foot, I whispered. He looked down, then back up at me, a small smile curling on his lips. Move it, I screamed, lunging forward. The cops grabbed me instantly, pulling me back, but I kept shouting. It's there. He's standing on it. Look. Stop resisting. Mark yelled, pretending to back away. She's dangerous. Let go of me. I cried, tears blurring everything. He has the proof. Please. But they didn't look. None of them looked. In that moment, as they dragged me toward the door, I realized something I'd never wanted to admit before. Mark wasn't just lying. He was good at it. He had been practicing for years. Mom turned her face away, hiding her tears or her guilt, I couldn't tell which. And as the officers guided me toward the patrol car, Mark leaned in close just for a second and whispered something so quiet only I could hear. Dad always said you were too emotional to handle responsibility. Guess he was right. He straightened up before the cops noticed, his expression all innocence. The door shut behind me, locking with a dull click that echoed in my chest. As the car pulled away, I looked back through the window, at the house, at my mother's silhouette in the doorway, and at Mark standing beside her, calm, composed, victorious. They thought it was over. But I knew one thing they didn't. Dad's real signature wasn't on that missing page. It was on something else. And I knew exactly where to find it. The hum of the fluorescent light above the police station bench felt louder than the voices around me. My wrists ached where the officers had held me, though they'd released me after realizing I wasn't violent. I sat alone, hugging my arms, tasting metal in my mouth. Fear mixed with fury. Detective Moore, the taller of the two cops from the house, approached with a paper cup. Coffee, he said, handing it over. You'll need it. Am I under arrest? Not unless you want to be, he said, pulling up a chair. Look, Rachel. Your mom said you've been under stress. Your father's death, the estate, these things can get messy. But I need you to be honest with me. Did you destroy anything tonight? I stared at the cup. Just their illusion. He sighed. You broke a frame, some glass. No one's pressing charges. We just want to make sure you're okay. I met his eyes. Do I look okay? He didn't answer. Instead, he slid a small notepad across the table. You said your brother forged a will. If that's true, we'll need proof. The one at the house was notarized. Not by Dad, I said quietly. The notary stamp was dated 2 days after he died. That got his attention. He leaned forward. You sure? Positive. I handled every document after he passed. I know the dates. He frowned, scribbling something down. All right. Do you have copies? Yes. In the study. Dad's safe, he never changed the code. It's still his birthday. Moore nodded slowly. Okay. You're free to go. But Rachel, he hesitated. If you're wrong, this could get ugly fast. You understand. I gave a small, humorless smile. It's already ugly. When I returned home the next morning, the house felt hollow. Silent. Even the air seemed different, colder, cautious, as if the walls themselves were watching. Mom's car wasn't in the driveway. Mark's was gone too. Good. I stepped inside, every footstep echoing softly on the hardwood. The scene from last night remained. Shards of glass, overturned chair, streaks on the floor. A memory of chaos frozen mid-motion. But I didn't come back to clean up. I went straight to Dad's study. The door creaked open like a secret being told too late. Dust motes swirled in the sunlight as I crossed the room and knelt by the old mahogany desk. The safe was still tucked beneath, the same one Dad used to keep his most personal things in. I punched in the code. 0-3-1-7. His birthday. The lock clicked open. Inside were the things I expected. A few documents, an old watch, and a small leather notebook with his initials embossed on the cover. I reached for the notebook first. Dad never went anywhere without it. He used to jot down everything, appointments, quotes, even thoughts about us. As I flipped through the yellowed pages, I found what I needed. On one page, written in his shaky handwriting. March 2nd, changed will today. Rachel gets the house. Mark gets investments. Fair. Tears burned my eyes. Proof. I snapped a photo on my phone, then turned to the last few pages and froze. There was an entry dated a week before he died. Mark's been coming around more. He says Rachel's struggling. I don't buy it. She's strong. Always has been. Something's off with him. And Martha's quiet lately. Too quiet. I read it twice, my heart pounding harder each time. Dad had noticed. He'd known. And then I saw something scribbled beneath it, the handwriting shakier, almost unreadable. If anything happens to me, Rachel will know where to look. Behind the picture. My breath caught. Behind the picture. I stood up, scanning the walls. The study had 2 framed photos, one of me and Dad fishing at the lake, and another of our old house back when Mom still smiled in photographs. I walked to the lake photo. The frame felt heavy. Carefully, I lifted it off the wall and turned it over. The backing had a faint slit, almost invisible unless you knew to look for it. I slid a finger in, peeling it back. Something thin and folded was tucked inside. A letter. I unfolded it slowly, hands trembling. It was a signed statement, dated 3 days before his death, addressed to his attorney, Mr. Green. It read, I, David Matthews, in sound mind, confirm that my will filed on February 12th is my final and authentic document. Any later version should be considered invalid and fraudulent. Beneath it, his real signature. Strong, deliberate. I sat back on the floor, shaking, tears blurring the words. This was it. The proof that could destroy Mark's lie. But before I could process the victory, a floorboard creaked behind me. I turned, heart racing, and there he was. Mark. Leaning against the doorway, arms crossed. Couldn't stay away, huh? He said quietly. Always have to dig. I clutched the paper. You forged his will. He sighed, stepping closer. I'm not going to argue with you again. Dad left this for me. I snapped. He knew. He knew you'd try something. He smiled faintly. You really think anyone's going to believe that letter? A hidden note, conveniently found after the fact. I stood, anger flooding every nerve. I have photos, Mark. I'll go to the police. Go ahead. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out his phone. Mom already told them you're unstable. You were violent last night, remember? Broke things. Screamed. They'll say you faked all of it. Not this time. His smile faltered. Dad mentioned his lawyer, I said. I'll go to him directly. Mr. Green's been with him for 20 years. He'll confirm everything. Mark's jaw tightened. I saw something shift in his expression then, a flicker of panic beneath his composure. Rachel, he said quietly, you don't understand what you're getting into. Oh, I understand perfectly, I said. You and Mom tried to erase me. But I'm done being quiet. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. Dad wasn't perfect. You think he didn't have debts? You think Mom didn't cover for him? You weren't there when things fell apart. Don't twist this. Everything he built was rotting underneath. You just didn't want to see it. I shook my head. That doesn't justify what you did. He hesitated. If you go to the lawyer, you'll destroy Mom. She'll lose everything. Is that what you want? The guilt in his tone was well rehearsed, but my heart still faltered for a second. He saw it. He always saw my hesitation. Let's fix this quietly, he said, softer now. No police, no courts. I'll make sure you get something. Enough to start over. You've always wanted to move away, haven't you? I stared at him. You're bribing me? He smiled sadly. I'm offering peace. For the first time I saw it clearly. The smooth manipulation, the practiced guilt, the calm mask he wore whenever he wanted to win. I almost pitied him. Almost. But I'd already made my decision. I folded the letter, slipped it into my jacket and said, Tell Mom to start praying. Because when I'm done, the truth won't need my words. It'll have Dad's. His face hardened. You're making a mistake. Not as big as yours, I said, brushing past him. As I stepped into the hallway, I felt his eyes on me, cold, calculating, and afraid. For the first time since Dad's death, I felt something steady inside me. Not grief, not confusion, resolve. The kind that burned quietly, unstoppable, like a fuse waiting for its fire. By the time I reached Mr. Green's office, my hands wouldn't stop trembling. Not from fear this time, but from the weight of what I was about to do. The truth wasn't just proof anymore. It was a weapon, and I was finally ready to use it. The law firm sat in a brick building at the edge of town, quiet and unassuming. The kind of place that hid secrets behind neat curtains and polished oak doors. The receptionist recognized me instantly. "Oh, Rachel. I'm so sorry about your father. Mr. Green's expecting you." "No," I said, forcing a smile. "But he'll want to see me." She hesitated, then nodded and disappeared down the hallway. A few moments later, the door to the corner office opened, and there he was, gray-haired, sharp-eyed, his presence both kind and intimidating. "Rachel," he said, his tone carrying that fatherly warmth I hadn't realized I missed. "I wasn't expecting you." "I found something," I said quietly, "about my father's will." His brow furrowed. "Come in." I stepped inside. His office smelled of paper and cedar polish, a mix that reminded me of my dad's study. The memory almost broke me, but I held it back. "I need to ask," I said. "Did my father ever contact you after filing his will in February?" He sat behind his desk, folding his hands. "He did, actually. He called me in early March. Wanted to make sure I had the original copy locked away." I told him I did. My pulse quickened. "Did he say why?" Green hesitated, studying me. "He mentioned some tension at home. Said he might need my help later, but he didn't elaborate." I reached into my jacket and slid the folded letter across his desk. "Then this is what he meant." He unfolded it carefully, eyes scanning every line. His face changed as he read. Curiosity first, then disbelief, and finally grim understanding. "Rachel," he said, voice low, "where did you find this?" "In his study, behind a picture frame." He nodded slowly. He was cautious like that. He trusted me, but he always kept a personal copy of everything, just in case. "So it's real?" I asked, even though I already knew. He looked up. "Yes. This is his signature. I'd stake my license on it." Relief hit me so hard I almost cried right there. "But," he leaned back, tapping the paper, "if what you're saying is true, then the document currently filed with probate court is fraudulent. That's a serious crime." "I know," I whispered. "And my brother did it. With my mother's help." Mr. Green exhaled heavily. "Rachel, I have to report this to the authorities. But you should know it'll get ugly. Your family's name, the estate, everything. Once this goes public, there's no going back." I stared at the floor. "They called the cops on me, Mr. Green. They said I was dangerous. I've already lost my family." He studied me for a long moment before nodding. "Then let's make this right." That evening I sat in my car outside the house, engine off, watching through the front window. Mom was home. So was Mark. Their silhouettes moved across the curtains like shadows in a play I no longer belonged to. The plan was simple. Mr. Green would contact the district attorney in the morning. But I wanted them to know what was coming. I wanted them to see it coming. I got out of the car and walked up the path. My heart pounded, but I didn't hesitate. Not this time. When I knocked, it was Mark who opened the door. His face hardened instantly. "You shouldn't be here," he said. "I'm not here to argue," I replied. "I just came to say goodbye." That caught him off guard. "Goodbye." Mom appeared behind him, her voice tentative. "Rachel." I looked at her, really looked at her. The lines around her eyes, the weariness she tried to hide. Once she'd been my anchor. Now she felt like someone else entirely. "You two wanted peace, right?" I said softly. "You'll have it soon. But it won't look the way you expect." Mom's face tightened. "Rachel, what are you talking about?" "I found Dad's letter. The one he wrote to Mr. Green." Her breath caught. Just for a second, but I saw it. The flicker of recognition. The guilt. Mark tried to play dumb. "You mean that fake thing you waved around?" "No," I said. "The real one. The one that proves you lied." He stepped closer. "You have no idea what you're doing. Actually, I said, meeting his gaze. For the first time I do. For a moment none of us spoke. The house was too quiet, heavy with unsaid things. Then Mom whispered, "Rachel, please don't do this. Your father wouldn't want this kind of fighting." My throat tightened. You're right. He wouldn't want fighting. He'd want truth. She flinched as if I'd hit her. Mark shook his head, smirking again. You think a letter's going to change anything? You think anyone will believe you after last night? They'll believe your notary stamp was dated after Dad died, I said calmly. Detective Moore already knows. Mr. Green's giving him the evidence tomorrow. For the first time I saw fear flicker in his eyes. Rachel, he said, lowering his voice, don't do this. You'll destroy everything Dad built. I took a step closer. No. You already did that when you forged his name. Mom's voice cracked. Please stop. We can fix this. We're still family. I laughed softly. Family? You called the police on me. You told them I was insane. Tears welled in her eyes. I was scared. You were scared of losing money. Not me. The silence that followed was suffocating. Mark's mask slipped then. His calm turned sharp. You think you've won? You haven't even seen what's coming. I tilted my head. Is that a threat? He smiled thinly. It's a warning. Before I could respond, he slammed the door shut in my face. I stood there for a long time, staring at the wood grain, my reflection faint in the glass. I should have felt triumphant, but instead I felt something colder. A stillness that settled deep in my chest. They weren't going to surrender. Not easily. And I wasn't done yet. At midnight my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You don't know what you're starting. No name. No number ID. But I knew who it was. I stared at the message for a full minute before replying. Neither do you. Then I turned my phone off, lay back in bed, and stared at the ceiling until dawn. When morning came, Mr. Green called. His voice was steady but urgent. Rachel, someone broke into my office last night. Files were stolen, including your father's letter. My stomach dropped. What? They bypassed the lock and security camera. It was professional. I'm sorry, but the evidence is gone. For a moment I couldn't breathe. Gone. My proof. My chance. My father's final words erased. A slow, fierce thought cut through the panic. I still had one thing left. The photo I'd taken of the letter. And something else. Dad's journal. The handwriting. The same slant, the same loops. It could prove the letter's authenticity. They thought they destroyed my only weapon. But I wasn't the scared, broken girl from last night anymore. I was my father's daughter. And they were about to find out what that really meant. I didn't sleep for 2 nights. Not really. I just lay awake listening, to the wind pressing against the window, to the creaks in the old floorboards, to the echoes of my father's voice in my head. They thought they'd beaten me. That by breaking into Mr. Green's office, they'd erased the truth. But grief has a way of sharpening people. And I wasn't the kind of woman who stayed broken. By the 3rd morning I had everything ready. Copies of the journal entries, the photo of the letter, and my father's signature analysis that matched both. Mr. Green, bless his heart, wasn't giving up either. He'd pulled security footage from the street cameras outside his office. Grainy, but enough to identify the car that pulled up that night. A silver Lexus. Mark's car. I knew then that this wouldn't end in a courtroom. Not for me. I needed to look them in the eyes when it all fell apart. That afternoon, the house felt strangely alive. Curtains drawn, lights on, as if my mother and brother were trying to create comfort out of guilt. When I walked in, they were sitting at the kitchen table. For a moment, it almost looked like the way it used to be. The 3 of us sharing quiet mornings with coffee and burnt toast. But the illusion dissolved the moment Mark looked up. You shouldn't just walk in here, he said. I smiled faintly. Funny. Dad used to say the same thing to you. He pushed back his chair. You've caused enough trouble. The lawyer's accusing us of theft now. Do you know what that means for Mom? Yes, I said calmly. It means she'll finally have to tell the truth. Mom's eyes filled with tears. Rachel, please. Don't do this. We can find a way. No, I cut in. You already chose your way. You called the cops on me instead of listening. Mark crossed his arms. If you think anyone's going to take your side, You're even more delusional than I thought. I pulled my phone from my pocket, tapping the screen until the image appeared. The photo of Dad's letter? Perfectly clear, his handwriting unmistakable. I set it on the table between us. Still think I'm delusional? Mark leaned forward, scanning the photo. You edited that. Check the metadata, I said coolly. Time-stamped. Location tagged. Taken inside Dad's study. You want to lie? Keep lying. Mom covered her mouth. Rachel, where did you get that? From where he hid it. Behind the picture frame. The same one you hung after the funeral, Mom. Her hand dropped, and the color drained from her face. Mark's expression hardened. Even if that letter's real, you can't prove I touched the will. I slid another paper across the table. A printed still from the security footage Mr. Green had pulled. The silver Lexus, parked outside his building at midnight. Then explain this, I said. Same night the evidence disappeared. He looked at it, jaw tightening. That doesn't prove anything. Maybe not in this kitchen, I said. But it will in court. Mr. Green's already given everything to Detective Moore. He's filing the fraud report today. Mark's composure cracked then. His voice rose sharp and desperate. You're going to destroy your own mother. For what? A house? Money? I met his gaze. No. For Dad. For the truth. He slammed his fist on the table, making the coffee cups rattle. You've always had to be the victim, haven't you? Always had to be the righteous one. Stop, Mom whispered, her voice trembling. He ignored her. You were Dad's favorite, and you still couldn't be happy. You always needed more, his attention, his approval, everything. I stood slowly. You can rewrite his will, Mark, but you can't rewrite what you are. Which is what? He spat. A coward hiding behind forged ink. The silence that followed was sharp as glass. Mom broke it with a sob. Enough. Both of you. Please. She turned to me, eyes pleading. Rachel, he did it for me. I didn't ask him to, but when your father died I panicked. I was drowning in debt. Mark said he'd handle it. I didn't know what he'd done until it was too late. Her confession hung in the air like smoke. I wanted to hate her. But beneath the anger I saw the fear, the kind that twists people into strangers. You could have told me, I said quietly. Instead, you chose to make me the villain. Tears slid down her face. I thought I was protecting us. No, I said. You were protecting him. Mark's glare shifted toward her. You're not helping yourself, Mom. She looked between us, broken. You both think you're fighting for something. But you're both just killing what's left of this family. For a moment none of us moved. The air was thick with everything unsaid. Years of resentment. Love turned bitter. Loyalty turned poison. Then the doorbell rang. 3 sharp chimes. Mark's head jerked toward the sound. Who the hell? Before he could finish, the front door opened. Detective Moore stepped in, flanked by 2 officers. Mark froze. Mark Matthews. Moore said evenly. We have a warrant to search the premises. Evidence of will tampering, forgery, and theft of legal documents. Mom gasped. What? Mark's face drained of color. You can't just barge in here. Moore held up a file. We have probable cause. The lawyer submitted video evidence. Your car was seen leaving his office the night of the break-in. I stood still, watching it all unfold. Watching the panic crawl across my brother's face. Watching the weight of his lies finally land. Mark turned toward me, his voice low, furious. You did this. I nodded. I told you the truth would find you. The officers moved in, cuffing him before he could say another word. Mom collapsed into a chair, sobbing quietly. As they let him out, he twisted his head to look at me. You think you've won? You've got nothing without this family. I met his gaze, steady. That's where you're wrong. I have something you never did, peace. He didn't speak again. When the door shut behind them, silence filled the room. A silence so heavy it almost hummed. Mom didn't look up. What happens now? She whispered. I don't know, I said honestly. But it'll be honest. For once. She nodded, her shoulders trembling. I'm sorry, Rachel. For everything. For a long moment I said nothing. Then I walked over, placed a hand gently on her shoulder and said, So am I. That night I sat in Dad's study again. The broken glass was gone, the photo frame repaired. The lake smiled back at me from behind the glass, calm, eternal, untouched. On the desk sat the leather notebook. I opened it to the last page, the one that had changed everything. If anything happens to me, Rachel will know where to look. I smiled faintly through the tears. I found it, Dad. Outside, the sirens had faded, replaced by the distant hum of wind through the trees. The house, for the first time in months, felt still. I picked up Dad's pen from the desk and wrote beneath his final words. I did. And I made them see. Then I closed the notebook, turned off the lamp, and let the quiet settle around me. It wasn't victory I felt. Not exactly. It was something deeper. A hard-earned peace carved out of truth and pain. And in that silence, for the first time since the day he died, I felt my father's presence. Steady, proud, and finally free.